There we go. I was late because I needed one of these. It was a long day yesterday. And I was up early this morning, so let's get right into it. Yesterday we were looking at this Pacman animation. This one right here. Okay, we created that one. And what we're going to do today is we're going to recreate the chomping animation in two different ways, okay? Two different ways. Now, it doesn't really matter what way you do things. The point of this challenge and the one from last week was to be able to see things differently. So the outcome, the aesthetics are going to look exactly the same, but what we're showing you is two more ways or different ways or alternative ways of constructing the same aesthetic. Okay, so let's just drop in. This was our animation, and let me just check. Yes, I have got the program running on my desktop, not my face, so that's good. This is the animation that we worked on yesterday. Just a little bit of a recap. We have a top shape and a bottom shape. And if I just hide one of those, what's happening is we're just rotating them, okay? We're rotating them like that. And they were rotating around for this one in particular. It's rotating around its anchor point, which is at the bottom. And let me just turn off my notifications. There we go. So it's got an anchor point at the bottom. You can see it over here on the right in the position panel. And it simply rotates. It rotates like that. And the bottom does the exact same thing. So let's turn on the bottom. And the bottom does the same, well, it does the opposite, but the same basic technique. And that is what creates the chomping. So let's do this with, the challenge was to do this with a single layer, okay? So let's go ahead and start by duplicating our timeline. So I right click on the timeline, I hit duplicate, and I'm going to call this challenge 2. I'm gonna go turn this back on. And the way that I want to do this technique, so the first technique that I'm going to show you is how to do this with a single circle shape. And we're going to use the stroke start and the stroke end points of that shape to give it the effect of the chomping. All right. So let's start. We're going to add our circle. Next thing I want to do with relative mode on is I want to change the colors. So what we're going to do is we are going to change the stroke color. We're going to make the stroke color green. And then we are going to make the fill color clear. So I select the fill color, I make it 0%, and I hit enter. So now we have this green line. And if you recall, our shape was 120. We started out yesterday with a shape that was 120 by 120. And then we added a 4-point stroke width to it. Okay, and so since the stroke width, actually, if this is the shape, the stroke sits right at the center of the shape, right? Extending that out is going to go by 2 points because it's a 4-point stroke width, okay? But if you do that all the way around, you get this extra 2 points on either end. We're going to change the size of this circle to match that, okay? So instead of it actually being 120, this inner circle, this green one now is going to be, we're going to click on that lock to lock things. We're going to make it 124 by 124. And then we're going to go down here. We're going to just increase that stroke width by pressing shift and up. And the closer we get to the same size as this, you see the inner part, like the stroke itself, is starting to cover the entire circle. Okay, so I'm just gonna go up slowly by pressing up, 1, 2, 3. That is matched. You see, it's matched at 124 or 120. And I can do 121, 122. Actually, we could probably just bring this down by 122, just like that. So the size of that shape, that circle now, is 122 points. by 122 points, and its stroke width is 122 points. So when the stroke width, all right, when the stroke width of a circle matches its actual diameter, then you're going to have that stroke encompass the entire shape, and it's just going to look like a normal circle. But in reality, it's the stroke. Okay, so what we are now going to do is we're going to move out. We're just going to hide this again. So our animation starts closed, opens, and then closes, just like that. So right here at 0.15, we want to now match the animation for our Pacman. And we can call this Pacman because it's going to be a single shape. We're going to turn it back on, and we're going to change the stroke endpoints. We're going to press up, 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 up. And as I'm just pressing up like that, okay, you notice that the shape is starting to open up right here at the bottom. Well, that's because when you double click in, this is where the start point of that circle is. It's right at the bottom. We can press option and click on that little path handle and drag it to the next point. And now we're starting here and opening upwards. Okay, so next, we just pressed escape to get out of that. What we're going to do is we're going to change the end point right here. Just like this, down, 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 until we have something that matches. And actually, this is probably the closest at 0.88. Now, the precision here in flow is to 1/100th of a point. So it's actually like the actual angle there should be 12.5. That's why you're going to see these close approximation, but we're going to do it to 0.12 and 0.88. Okay, so that's our shape. We know what our targets are. Let's go back here. Let's turn off relative mode, go to the beginning, select our Pacman, and make the stroke points their original like that. Okay, and just undo or open up the timeline a little bit to be able to see those animations. And now we're going to take these two at the end. We're going to drag them right into that position. And so now that Pacman opens up at the same and ends at the same place roughly as the original layer. Next, we're going to copy these original points. We're going to option drag them to the right. And we're going to select these points. We're going to option drag them to the right to fit the same timing as the dots. And now we have the open and closed action. Next thing we're going to do, we are going to, as the top and the bottom, we're going to delete that. And we are lastly going to select all of our key values, change all of the easings for these animations to linear, and we're going to hit play. And we have the same animation. Only difference being, press play, select this, click here, relative mode on again. We're going to make that pink, and now we have the same animation. So if I go back over to Pacman and turn on that layer, there you go. Challenge 2, Pacman, and you see here, I'm just switching between our timelines and the player is continuing to play. It shows that those animations look really, 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 really close to each other. Like you're not going to be able to see that like that 0.05 degree angle not in there. So that is one technique, one layer, and we're using the stroke start and stroke end. Now I'm going to show you another technique, and this is going to use an additional layer on top of it, but we're not going to animate the pink circle at all this time. Okay, we're not going to animate the top and the bottom. What we're going to do is we're going to overlay the appearance of that shape changing using the same technique that we just did here. So let's have a look at that one now. Okay, so this was our challenge 2 animation, just like that. Okay. So what I will do is I'm just going to go here. I'm going to duplicate the original one. I'm going to call this challenge 3. And I am just going to remove the animations for the top and the bottom. So we are just going to leave the top and the bottom as it is. They're going to do nothing. Okay. Could be a single circle. I'm just making it easy. Yeah, I'm just making it easy. So we're gonna select this layer, this Pacman layer. We're gonna copy it, going into challenge 3, and we are going to edit, paste in place, and here. So yeah, we have our animation that looks like that. So let's do this. Okay, this is what our original shape looks like. And what I want to do is, just so I can see it a little bit better while I'm doing my animations, I'm going to make it green. And what I will do is I'm going to go over to this point right here in time where it's supposed to be open. And I do remember from our previous animations that when it's open, it's about a 0.25 or 1/4 of the shape. So of opening and closing it. And that gives us about a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to set it to that to begin with, and then we're going to animate it out. So this is our shape. We're going to set the endpoint to 0 for the beginning, and this at 0.25, like that. Okay, so we're starting, I'll double click in, we're starting our shape here, and we're just drawing that shape up into here. So 1/4 of a rotation. Now it's out of place, okay? It's out of place, but that's easy to fix. I'm just gonna change that name, it's bugging me. By giving it a 45-degree rotation, okay? So at this point in time, that's what our shape should look like, okay? And it is going to look like the mouth of our bottom shape of our Pacman. Now, let's turn on relative mode, and we're going to start to do some animations. We're going to go back to the beginning, and we're just going to close that shape. We're going to take that endpoint, and we're going to just drop it down all the way so that that mouth closes. But you notice how it's only going to appear like the top is just closing like this. That's okay. So what we're going to do, we're also just going to rotate to offset that animation. So we're going to bring this down. It's actually going to go to 0. The endpoint is going to go to 0. And now the rotation is also going to go to 0. And what do we get? We get this animation that looks like this. Let's just bring this into 0.015. And I'm just going to drag this slowly. And you see that? We're starting to get that effect. Okay, if I had left this open completely by deleting that first stroke end animation, what you're going to see is our animation is going from this position to this position. It's going from there to there. All right, so it's going from this position, it's rotating this way. It's rotating this way, and at the same time, right, it's drawing its stroke. So it's doing two things. It's rotating and drawing at the same time. And so now we have that. We can actually press undo. We're going to get back to this animation, and we're just going to do the same technique as before. We're going to grab these two at the beginning. We're going to option drag to copy them. We're going to select these two. We're going to option drag to copy them. And we are now going to go here, select all those animations, change their easing curves to linear. And the last step is to select that little Pacman animation. And we are going to eyedropper the background color, just like that. Oh, that was recording, so I'm just going to delete the 2 key values around that change. And now we can even change this to mouth. And let's hit play. All right, so we are almost there. Almost there. What happens to these dots? Well, this is just a layering issue. See, the dots are underneath the mouth. We just drag those above and hit play again. And we are right back to that animation. So again, original animation, 2 shapes rotating. Challenge, only 1 shape doing the animation. And here, it's technically 1 shape doing the animation, but 2 layers, 1 for the pink and 1 for creating the effect of the opening in that pink circle. Okay? All right, so we looked at yesterday's challenge, or yesterday's animation. We broke it down and just had a look at how it was constructed using anchor points and rotations. And then we rebuilt that thing in 2 different ways to get the exact same aesthetic. Okay? So it is possible always to be able to look at things and think of different ways of reconstructing that animation. And when you can do that, what you end up being able to do is start simplifying your animations. The simpler, the better. Okay? In terms of, and so, I mean, just generally in terms of everything. If the timeline is simpler, if the hierarchy of animations is simpler, hierarchy of layers is simpler, then it's just going to be easier to work with those things that you're animating. It's going to be easier to create, it's going to be easier to produce things, and you're just going to work a lot faster. Okay? So this is a really great exercise. If you can think of another way of constructing this, fire it my way. I would love to see it. All right? And I'll see you tomorrow.